purposes, you'd rather be not running in a container. You'd rather have the sidecar in a container, but the driver itself running as a binary, right? Just because it's easier to debug that way. So was the old way more conducive to running not in a container for the driver itself?
So in this case, I mean, if you're developing, you don't have to run it in containers. You don't need customize at all. You just
right, but we have a bunch of guys that have never touched this stuff and they're trying to figure it out. So I'm trying to give them the simplest way to get started, and then of course they'll tear it all apart and put it back together in a way that makes sense.
Okay. But, so how about this? Okay, so I'll add a developer's doc, like building and how to run it locally without putting it in a container. Would that help?
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, and just a quick fix, I guess, for that quick start guide. What we should put on the third line instead. And yeah, over time, of course, we'll want like a full suite of developer docs that tells people, how to write a new driver and, but what to do.
We're doing that. So I don't know if you've looked at this website, container object storage interface.github.io, and then you scrolled up to docs, and then you looked at authoring cozy drivers. It's a reflection of what's there in GitHub, by the way. So it needs to be updated, but we are working on filling this up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey Ben, it's good news to hear NetApp's is going to be writing a cozy driver. I wanted to also just share in the meeting that we have a guy at Red Hat who is working on a Ceph object, RGW Ceph driver. I did an initial pass at the code. It's rough right now, but it's going to get better, and we'll contribute that as soon as we get something working.
Okay.
For what it's worth, Vianney, who's also on this meeting, is doing the same for scalability storage.
Very nice. I'm happy to hear all the vendors are actually.
That's very good news.
It is. It's a great thing. Yeah, I'm very happy to hear this. I was waiting for this to happen. So now all of us can push the API together. Then.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
Yep. This is fleshing out any weaknesses we have. We're gonna discover them now.
Right. No, it's very important we do this. This is the way to improve. So here's the thing. All the vendors and everyone, I think we should all get together and ping Tim to
yes
to do the API review. So what I'll do is I'll start a new email thread and include everyone here, and we'll go from there with Tim, and I'll ask him to take a look at our API one more time. And if any of you can reach out to him through other channels, other means, please do.
Hey, Sid, I just had a thought when you said that. Do you think we can make a more compelling case with getting Tim's time if we say we already have a driver working?
We have Scality is also working, I believe. Scality driver is working, right, Vianney?
Yeah. We are working on it. I mean, it's
maybe we should highlight that it's at least some validation of the API being reasonable, right?
Yeah. Let's do that. I think that's a good point, Jeff. Let's put it that way. I like that. Let's do it. Okay. So let's do that. Let's do that today. So after the meeting, I'll draft an email and have you all CC'd, and maybe if you have links, if they're public and if they're open source projects, send me a link to them so I can also include those in the email. So the idea is May 13th is our feature freeze. We don't have very long, and Tim's time is going to get even more expensive the closer we get to KubeCon, the closer we get to that date. So we want to keep trying until then.
But isn't KubeCon next Monday?
So we have 1 day then.
Yeah, it's the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, something like that.
Officially starts Wednesday next week, but there's Monday, Tuesday, or the pre-event.
Yes, right. That's right.
All right. Okay, so Ben, we'll update the docs, like a developer documentation that says how to run these things locally, and I think that will help you get started. Your team get started. That's what you'd like, right? That should do it, right?
Yes, sorry, I was talking on mute. Please.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, and we'll update these docs to also reflect the fact that we've moved the customized templates from the existing sidecar repository into the sample driver.
Oh, so that doc is actually from this repo? From the API repo? Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, right now we do a manual copy. So Tejas has worked on it. Tejas here, T Parik. So he every night he's running a GitHub Actions job. It's free to clone this repo and then take the docs out and then publish it.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately he can't join us during these meetings, but he's been a great help. I thought I'd mention it. Yeah. And along with his main job, he's also a lecturer at Northeastern University.
Yeah, I just see that. It shows here.
Yeah. A lot of time I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he'll be like, oh, I'm evaluating tests right now. Let's talk.
SRE, okay. SRE had, okay. I don't know, SRE has time to be a lecturer as well.
He's one of the special people, like, I think.
I thought SRE, do they have to be like on call or something?
Right. Yeah.
Emergency guest lecturing.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we'll update the docs. I think that's very important. The next thing is API review. I think we should focus all our efforts on getting this through. So in terms of what is needed, so we're all in agreement about what this API should be for alpha. Jeff, as of yesterday, has updated the KEP to reflect the latest changes. All that's left is for Tim to take a look and well, ask us questions if there are any, and then help us move this forward. And that's what we'll I'll say in the email, and that's what needs to happen. So do you all think we should invite him for a call, like a video call? The idea being we can quickly finish it if he joins, rather than it being this call. Maybe we could make the time such that it works for him.
Yeah, I mean, a Zoom call is way better, and it could be this time slot or any time slot. I mean,
okay, let's aim for that.
And as long as it works for him and like somebody who can push the API, I wouldn't try to accommodate anyone else's schedule.
Yeah.
What matters is getting him.
Right. I'm going to make the time regardless. Like even if I have other meetings, I'll push it.
Yeah.
We have only like 2 weeks, so it's high priority. Okay. Okay. So now that that's out of the way, so Krish brought up a really important point last week or this week, and I just want to bring it up and make sure we're all on the same page about this. It's the idea of status versus spec. I don't know if we talked about this, but Tim mentioned it to us some time ago that for any resource where if any field is updated by the system, it should be status. Like for instance, in case of pods, like pod IP is in the spec, but then it's always filled in by the system. It's filled in by Kubernetes. Like in a more conceptual sense, shouldn't that really be a status field?
Well, there are some fields that could be in principle filled in by either an end user or a controller. Those have to be part of the spec because, but yeah, something that is definitely going to be filled in by a controller should be status.
All right, so let's talk about that. So, so take for instance a bucket. In bucket is created by Cozy and it is not created by the user unless it's the driverless use case where the admin goes and creates it manually. We have inside of the bucket status, we have bucket ID, which is the unique identifier for the bucket itself. And really, if an admin is going to go specify the bucket manually, is it reasonable to say that since they're trying to describe the status of the bucket, that is the current state of the bucket, which already exists outside of Kubernetes, which somehow provisioned manually or whatever, aren't they representing the state of the bucket?
Well, yeah. So maybe I said something confusing. So you have to think of it in terms of like a client and a server, where the client specifies the spec, and then the server sees that and then goes and does something and then returns the status. So like there are situations where there's objects where both the client and server are just different controllers talking to each other. So like in that case, the thing is acting as the client. Something that an admin might do or one controller might do would be filling in the spec of the bucket object. A user will never see the bucket object because it's non-namespaced. So yeah, that you would fill in the spec there. Like one controller would fill in the spec, and then there'd be another controller that would be responding to that object, which would be the sidecar, and it would see the spec, and then it would fill out the status.
I see where you're coming from. So even though it's filled by the system, you're saying in this case it's going to be a part of spec.
Right. I think if there's only one controller acting on the object, then its job is to fill out the status. If there's two controllers operating on the object, one of them is like a requester and one of them is a responder. And the requester obviously has to fill in the spec to make a request. And then the responder or the controller that is waiting for those objects sees that request and then does something and then fills in the status to reflect what happened.
And that's why you're saying client and server. Like
yeah, I mean, I hate the name client and server because it doesn't fit in Kubernetes, but yeah, like there's a requester, someone that creates the object with some values, and then there's something watching for those objects that will do something in response.
Fair enough. Krish, what are your thoughts on this?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. So does that mean then that this bucket ID, which we moved to status, should it go back into the spec?
You should have it in both places.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Xing. Could you have the same field, same content, even the same name, but one under spec, which is the declarative side, and one under status, which is state of the world? Is that?
Yeah, that's what we have. Yeah, that's for the snapshot. We have something similar. Yeah, this one is for your. It's like your what? This is your brown. What?
Brown field.
Yeah, brown field case. So it's like static provision case. So you'll have the ID ahead of time. So that ID will be in your spec to start with. And then in the status, you will always have this field. Because in both cases, this field should be.
There's examples of that being done elsewhere in Kubernetes where they have the same field in spec and status.
Right. So snapshot have something similar. Let me actually.
You have a link that I can go check.
Let me just check the. Yeah.
Is it under Kubernetes?
Let me just find that. This is a snapshot. So that's the external snapshotter. Let's see. What's the.
So you're saying under spec we have a source, and we have a class name, and under status we have.
So under the snapshot handle, and yeah, I see that snapshot handle. I don't know if you find it. Let me actually share this
handle.
Let me put this in the chat. Right. So that's this is in the spec. And then we also have the same thing in the status. Let's see.
Yeah, it's right there. Same. Yeah, 368. Yeah. Okay. The CSA snapshot ID of the snapshot on the underlying storage system. I see. This is like our bucket ID.
Yeah.
But the key is that the one in the status would be filled in by one actor and the other one in the
right. Not at the same time. The status, you can't have status when
so the responsibility for the two fields is split.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So in our case, bucket ID would exist in both places. And in both cases, either the admin fills it up. Well, no, in case of the spec, either the admin fills it up or the central controller fills it up. And the responsibility for the status is always done by the sidecar.
Another sort of key observation is it is impossible to create an object with a status attached to it initially. So anything that has to be specified at creation time has to be in the spec because the status always starts off blank.
That is.
I mean, it's a sub resource, so you literally can't edit it.
Only through kubectl. You can do it through the API.
Yeah, API, you can do it. You cannot do it. kubectl, you cannot. It's going to remove it for you.
Right.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to have the status when you initially create object.
I guess the key is just to realize that like it's a sub resource, so like you can access it independently of the main resource, and many controllers actually do that.
Understood. Yeah, that's why there's an update status call, I guess. Interesting. Anyway, so okay, that clarifies that. So we'll update the API. That also means we have to update the KEP. Jeff, I know you're working on the KEP. You'll take care of that, right?
Yeah, we're talking about bucket ID in the bucket instance definition, right? In a bucket resource.
Right.
Yes, let me make a note. I can do that. And this is a good time to advertise reviews on the KEP, especially I very much, if we're going to get some of Tim's valuable time, I want the community to support the KEP PR, the latest one that has a bunch of commits I'll squash later, but they're separate now for your own benefit. But we have to be in agreement with that PR. Because that PR for the KEP is going to be the basis of Tim's API review. And it's not getting much love right now. We're not getting many eyes on it.
Yeah, agreed. So the the key members from each of the vendors, if you can go review, like all of you should go review the KEP, and then leave a LGTM on it. You don't need to have permissions, but just typing in /LGTM is going to count, because Tim is going to see that, and he's going to see that the community approves of this. It's easier for, that is more convincing than us saying community approves of this.
I agree.
And it would be good if you did that as soon as possible. I'm sorry, I'm being a little pushy about this because we have very little time, and the cost of missing this deadline is very expensive. So,
and more important than any politics about this is that we really want it to be good, and collectively we're going to get better ideas from the whole community, better points of view, different dimensions of thought. So really we do want more eyes on it so that we can make sure that we have the best API possible.
Yeah, agreed. So I would actually like people to sign up. Ben, can I count on you to take a look at the KEP, and if everything looks good, leave a review?
Yeah, I'll put an LGTM on it after reading through it.
Okay. And Vianney, could you also, as a representative of Scality, take a look at it?
Yep. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. And Jeff or Krish, Jeff, you wrote this, so you're biased. Yeah.
Yes, I'm biased, so I want other eyes.
Right. Krish, can you take a look at the KEP and leave a review if you have the time?
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you so much. Okay, so there are other fields too. So one was the bucket ID, the other was let me see. There's in the history.
Oh, there's another one. Okay,
Yeah.
let me write.
Are you ready, Jeff?
I'm ready.
Okay, the other is inside of bucket access, the fields are minted secret name and account ID.
And so, and we're going to change it from minted secret name to just minted secret because it's a ref, right?
Right, right. So
And-
it's yeah. So the thing about minted secret is the CSI adapter has to go fetch this minted secret and then put it into the workload, the pod. The thing about that is the CSI adapter has no clue which namespace this minted secret resides in.
Is it a local secret ref or a global secret ref?
Global secret ref.
Local
what?
to the provisioner's namespace.
No, it's
No, I mean like in the Kubernetes types, there's a local ref which doesn't have a namespace field because the namespace is implicit, and then there's a secret ref which has a namespace field and can point to any secret in the system.
Yeah, it's a secret ref. It's a regular secret ref, so it has the namespace from.
Then it has a namespace field, and you know where it is.
Now, if it has the namespace field, then we know where it is. But with the current implementation, we didn't have it. So
correct. The current implementation just had a string for the name of the secret.
Well, we need to decide if it's a local ref or a global ref, I guess.
It'll be a secret ref.
Yeah,
it'll be a pointer to a secret ref. Or,
so
or maybe a secret ref, not a pointer to it.
And who creates those secrets? The sidecar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And is the sidecar intended to create them in a single namespace per cozy implementation, or is it meant to create them in the namespace where the end user is running his workload? Like, where are they supposed to be?
In its own name.
Go ahead. Someone else. Go ahead, Chris or Jeff.
Jeff got it.
If you didn't hear it, Ben, because I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead, Chris. Tell them where the sidecar puts the secret.
I was just saying it creates the secret in its own namespace. So wherever like the sidecar lives, it creates it there.
Okay, so then the sidecar just needs to know what namespace it's in so that it can populate the namespace field of the secret ref, and then Kubelet will always know where to find it.
Right.
Yep, we use like the downwards API for that.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. So we use that to put it into an environment variable and then read it from inside the sidecar. Yeah. So that was one of the changes.
Can you repeat that? So I wrote a note that said keep the ba.spec.minted secret and add ba.status.minted secret. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that tells me that the minted secret could be, say, added manually by an admin in some scenario where the admin has to manually create a BA, but it's also cozy has updating the minted secret that it gets from the driver. The sidecar is updating it. So that's why we have it in both spots, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it minted in the spec because it's not minted in the spec, but it is in the status. So I would give it a different. You can have a field that.
Yes, good point.
Static credentials or something. Static secret credential secret. Any thoughts?
What name do you want to call it? Static secret?
Static credentials secret.
That's long.
I mean, I don't know that you need any modifier at all. You could just have secret.
Yeah. I know generally the community likes shorter names where possible, where reasonable.
The name of our project is Container Object Storage Interface.
Yeah, it's long, but it's also cozy.
But I mean, the purpose of making the name longer would be to disambiguate it from something similar.
Right.
There's nothing similar to disambiguate it from. It doesn't need to be long.
Minted secret name, like minted secret.
But it's not minted if it's
not minted. The status will be minted secret ref.
So if I were to see this resource, right? Like if I were to see the definition for bucket access, and I didn't know how things work, I would see two secrets, and I wouldn't know what was what. But by calling it static credentials secret, it's very clear what's going on.
I don't have a problem with someone who hasn't read the docs not understanding how it works. I mean, at some level you have to understand. At some level you have to know what's going on.
I mean, it also helps to make the system a little intuitive. But I agree with you.
When we're talking about the brownfield case, though, I'm realizing even calling it minted secret in the status is confusing, because if it was passed in by an admin as a pre-existing secret, then we'll copy that to the status and it will be a pre-existing secret, not a minted secret if it came through the spec. So
I think in the status, it makes more sense. That's a good point. What would you say about calling it just secret in the status field?
yeah, that's what I'm leaning, unless there's going to be a different secret that we have to disambiguate it from, a short name works.
I'm okay with minted is just superfluous. It's, you know, obviously it's in status, so cozy is generating or you know, putting it in there. So it doesn't have to have minted in status. Now, what did you guys land on for the spec secret name? BA spec secret.
It could also be secret.
You're okay, Ben, with the, I know there's examples in snapshots where the field name is identical between status and spec. Is that what we're saying for secret?
I think so. I mean, you just have to imagine a situation where you're using it and say, does it feel weird? Like minted does feel weird if it's a pre-existing one, but just calling it secret, it's like, okay, I know what that is.
Yeah, status calling it secret makes sense to me.
I think we should do that. There's precedence, and Ben, like you said, at some point you do have to read the documentation. You know,
in case of spec, do we want to call it a secret? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I mean, so
why not?
As opposed to,
here's the thing. I mean, having the fields be more intuitive ends up in a position, it puts people in a position where they're less likely to make mistakes. Say they've read the documentation, they've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
But this is an object that ordinary users would never touch. The system creates these. Like, you're only touching it if you're doing the brownfield case.
And you're an admin, most likely.
Maybe you call it pre-existing secret or existing secret or
sure.
Static secret. I don't have a huge problem with. But it would have to. The key is, if it's present, it means the admin provided it. If it's absent, it means that it just came from the system.
Yeah, that's where I was coming from when I said static credentials secret. I know it's a little mouthy, but maybe you know something. You can help me make it simpler. Is everyone okay with static secret?
I'm not opposed. That's fine.
Sounds sensible.
Static secret, okay.
Okay, so BA spec will have, the field will be called static secret, and BA.status, the field will be called just secret.
Okay, so one more thing. Can we call it just static credentials and then have it the type be a secret reference?
That's fine. Static credential.
Yeah.
So when you say static, what does that mean? That you're importing it? Is not going to be changed or something?
Yeah, so it means that the credentials are already created and they're going to be true for the lifetime of the bucket access.
Should that be called like immutable instead?
Generally, they call it static credentials because it came from, it was pre-created by an admin, like hand created. I
thought we are actually trying to not to say static, because like for snapshotting, we're not even mentioning static. We say pre-existing snapshots. So every time I have a static there, I was asked to change that to pre-existing.
It's a little redundant because there's not a dynamic. I mean, maybe just say credentials, and it's a pointer to a secret.
Yeah, that's true.
Credentials also works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because static, I mean, saying pre-existing or static is a little superfluous because obviously you're pointing to something that's there. Or you're filling it in with something that exists, or
So, but crucially, in the normal case, it's absent, and so
correct.
That it's a signal that, oh, this field is gone. That means there was no pre-existing secret, and the one that got put in the status was from cozy.
Yeah.
So the case when it's absent is actually the most interesting case from a naming perspective.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fine. And we're gonna, the type of these fields will be a secret ref, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them. So Ben, are you saying it should be, it makes more sense to have that qualifier for the credentials rather than just calling it credentials?
No, I mean, credentials sounds better than secret now that you say it, as long as it's still accurate.
Mhm.
And yeah, a qualifier or not, as long as
Is static credentials better than just credentials? Or pre-existing credentials better than just credentials?
probably, yeah. I have a feeling that whatever you pick, your reviewer will tell you to do the opposite. Like Shing said, if
So
you
let's
say
keep the
static, they'll tell you make it pre-existing. If you say pre-existing, they'll tell you make it something else.
I see.
You know how
I-
people are when they review; they like to
Yeah.
nitpick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. We'll go through the grinds. So let's call it static credentials then
You want static in the name?
in the spec. Yeah.
Hold on.
No,
If
no,
there
we
are-
ask not to use the static phrase.
Oh, pre-existing. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
if
Let's
that's
go
too long, but I'm fine with pre-existing because if you search all the documents about snapshots, there's no static mentioned anywhere. It's all called pre-existing now.
What was that field for? Like, what was the field being called static?
I don't know what was the reason. I just every time I have that, they say, "Oh, we shouldn't call that static
Shing,
anymore."
is it pre-existing with the E being uppercase?
No.
Not upper. I don't think it's just like a
It's all
hyphen.
pre-existing is one word, all lowercase.
I think the lowercase is fine. Yeah, I don't think there is a
Well, you have
E.
two lowercase e's next to each other with pre-existing. That's
So
what
with the
you
hyphen, right? You have a hyphen in between.
have a hyphen, not in a field name, do you?
Not in a field name, no.
Oh, you're saying why do we do that in the field name?
What do you do in snapshots for this field name?
We don't. Oh, I don't think we have that. I don't think we call it pre-existing in the name. We just call it a snapshot handle because we differentiate that. So if you look at our explanation there, right? So you can only have one of those two fields. One is for dynamic, the other one is for pre-existing. So it's very clear. There's no confusion there.
Oh, you're calling one dynamic. Okay.
No,
So-
but no, I'm saying the name is not, we don't have dynamic in there, but I'm saying if you look at the source, one source, you will only specify that in the case of dynamic provisioning. The other one, the snapshot handle, you only specify that in the source if it is pre-existing. So in our case, this is very clear. You can only have one off. But so that's why we don't really need that in the name.
Okay, so you're saying we don't even need to say that, just say call it
Yeah.
credential in both cases. Yeah, we can become symmetric with snapshotting. I'm fine with this. Purely conceptually speaking, it seemed to be better to call it pre-existing and created or generated, I guess. No, even that's not true because in case of driverless, it's not generated. So
Yeah.
in the status, let's just call it credentials. I think we're all on the same
Wait a
page.
minute. So we changed it. So I had written down that in the status, we were going to call it a secret. You're saying now in status, you want to call it credentials?
Yeah.
All right. And in
Yeah, I
spec
agree with that.
also credential?
Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
So status, it will be called, status dot credentials, plural. And in spec, it's going to be spec dot credentials, also same name.
Spec dot credentials.
Plural.
Yeah, that should be okay. That should be fine. I mean, if we wanted to clearly say that this was pre-created, I mean, you could say pre-existing or static, but I guess it is in a sense.
But if you look in specs all the time when they reference other objects like storage classes, bucket classes, we don't say pre-existing in there.
Right.
It's just assumed.
Right. Fair enough. So it's called credentials in both cases.
Okay, I got it.
Great. Ching, that's cool. That's okay, right? That sounds good, right?
Credentials, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go back here. So that was for the that was for the credentials. Now let's look at account ID. So account ID is needed as a separate field because we need to know the handle for the account that that is going to refer to the user that's actually going to access the bucket. In case we need to revoke access, this is what will be used as the handle to revoke access. So when creating a bucket access manually by hand, the admin would have to fill in the account ID field. So I think account ID also should have 2 copies, bucket and bucket access spec and bucket access status.
Are we talking about the B instance or the BA here?
The BA.
That's what I thought. Okay, and so you're saying we're going to have ba.spec.account ID for the same reason we have credentials in spec.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, since account ID is going to be filled in by Cozy,
mm-hmm.
then we will also have it in the ba.status.
Right.
Okay. And it's spelled account and then ID both uppercase.
Right.
Got it.
Right. I cannot believe we've spent 45 minutes so far.
Well, you know what? It's often seems wasteful, but names are really are hard to come up with good names.
Oh, it doesn't seem wasteful at all. I'm just surprised. It's a good thing if time goes by fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's make those changes and update the cap. I think
I've got them noted.
Okay.
If anybody on the call comes up with an argument against the name choices, please just put it in SIG storage Cozy. And later today, I'll make these changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Any discussions, please bring it up on Slack. We're all always there, so we can help answer them. So, all right. So to follow up on this, we also need to update. Let's see. Do we need to update the spec in any way for this? No, the spec remains as it is. The spec is the gRPC spec, and I don't think there's any changes needed there. We do need to update our controller and sidecar to follow this new convention. So that needs to be taken care of. Okay, and also this is good because it gives us a way to disambiguate between a bucket that already exists and a bucket that we need to provision. Like from the sidecar side, there was no way to tell this before. And there was some issue with not being able to tell with cleaning up, I believe. I forgot what exactly the issue was, but it'll come back up. Okay, so I think we're in a good shape in case of the API. Let's go to let's go to our project management page and let's see what's left. Let's see projects. It's in the agenda right now. Okay, so all right, let's talk about development. So while Tim is going to review all this, it is also important to make sure we're on, we're continuing development. So we don't have health checks implemented for any of the Cozy resources. So that needs to be implemented. Krish, are you working on it right now?
Not currently, no.
Okay, so is it okay if can someone else take up the task, or do you want to do it?
Would this require a change to the spec? I don't think so, right? It would just be because you already have like the provisioner get info, right? So it would just be sidecar change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can work on that one.
Okay. And were you already working on emitting events?
Yeah, that PR should be up later today. It's pretty much done. I should test it.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about that? Because do we emit events on the pod that's requesting the bucket? So if I were to do kubectl describe pod, would I see the event saying bucket provisioned and bucket, not provisioned?
Yep, that's exactly it. So we get the pod name and pod namespace through the CSI call for publishing, and so we use that to emit events onto the pod when we're provisioning or when we're trying to mount the secret. So if there's ever errors, we just like have warning events that say like, you know, whatever condition isn't met yet. So if it's like the bucket access hasn't been granted yet, it'll emit an error basically saying that onto the pod. And then if everything mounts successfully, then we just have one event that says like, you know, everything went okay basically. And then the same process happens for unpublishing. Where if everything gets unpublished correctly, we just emit an event.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
Could we?
Someone had a question?
Yes, just on the health checks. The health check for a provisioner, would it make sense to adopt the probe request that CSI has instead of relying on the get info call?
Sorry, Chris, you're asking, does it make more sense to provide an endpoint from inside the sidecar rather than to call get info?
Well, so in CSI, there is an explicit probe request with a probe response that a driver can implement, which is called into by the sidecar to expose the health of the pod, which includes the sidecar as well as the actual CSI driver, the gRPC implementation. So should we do the same or rely on the get info call, which CSI also has?
Right.
I think.
So the difference is if you were to if you want to do a health check on the driver itself, you'll need to do the gRPC API for it. If you want to do the health check for the sidecar, which is not the driver, the sidecar itself, then you don't need that. Now, given that the sidecar and the driver have to run in the same pod, and given that the pods the containers in a single pod have to share the same life cycle, I think it's okay to say just have the health check in just the sidecar, and we can punt the driver level health check for the future if needed. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, if the sidecar is not doing any gRPC call and to handle a health check request right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That we don't need it yet. I don't see a good reason why we need it.
Okay, but what I understood from Krish is that it is doing an actual call into the driver.
Oh, is that what's happening, Krish?
Well, right now nothing's happening. So like it's still open for design. I was just thinking about basing it off like, you know, the liveliness pro for CSI drivers. Kind of the same idea where we have, you know, I think those ping. Let me check. I think it's like the identity one. Like wait, let me see. Get.
So
yeah, there's a probe endpoint that's
yes,
there.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay, I don't think I was saying maybe we don't need that. So
yeah, I agree. I don't think we need it. I think the probe one can be it's optionally enabled, I think. Or something like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's go with that. I think that's a better way to. I don't see a strong need for the driver itself, to have a health check endpoint. If there is a use case, obviously we'll implement it. The effort is low, but I think it's okay to just have a health Z for the sidecar, because they're always tied together. If the sidecar goes down, you want the driver. I mean, the driver doesn't work basically. So I think one health check is enough. Having it just in the sidecar is okay. Or like CSI does it. CSI has a separate liveness probe, like a health check microservice.
That's what we're using in the CSI adapter right now, the node adapter.
Yeah.
I actually wonder whether we could simply reuse this one in various drivers as long as the protocol is implemented by the cozy gRPC implementation.
I think that should work. I mean, but we were saying we won't do the gRPC thing. We'll just add a /health z endpoint to our driver.
Oof.
We don't need the liveness probe.
Right. So then you're saying that every driver needs to implement an HTTP endpoint as well next to the gRPC one.
No, not the driver. I'm saying if the sidecar has it, that's good enough.
Oh.
Because the life cycles are tied together. Wouldn't that be enough?
Why is it not enough in CSI?
I don't know. I'm asking you, what's the use case? I don't see a strong use case in case of drivers. If you tell me what it is, then we can talk about it. Does anyone know, Ben or Shing? Like, do you know why there's a separate probe call in CSI?
I think that the idea was to handle cases where the driver itself gets wedged. I mean, like liveness probes in general are kind of funny because it's like you can just see if the process is still there, and if it is, it must be running. But like, it's meant to detect some sort of a deadlock or a live lock where you come in through the HTTP endpoint and you actually maybe perform a slightly deeper check to say, yeah, I'm still processing requests, such that like if there was a state where you could be running but not processing requests, you could fail your liveness check, and then that would be a signal to the higher level that I need to bounce this whole thing. Maybe.
I mean, that's not. Yeah, that's actually. I would say that's worse than actually having it fail.
Having what fail?
Having the whole system fail, because what we're doing by doing this is we're having silent failures. Like every time, let's say there's a live lock or a deadlock, what we end up doing is we restart. So it continues, the deadlock goes away, comes back up, and let's say it happens again, and it'll keep spinning like that. And unless you're looking at the processes, you're probably going to miss that it's actually going down and coming up.
Right. But I mean, it's the same justification as why you would have a liveness probe for anything in Kubernetes, right? I mean, the idea is sometimes you want to programmatically deal with things deadlocking. If you don't want to, you don't implement it, but it's a mechanism that you can use. It's just another tool in your tool chest.
Okay, so I think to begin with, let's just have a /health z endpoint, like our server listening to /health.